Hello, commanders and YouTube people like MS205 over here, and this time we're gonna review Ironblood's submarine U-73. And I did some historical research, or her history research, her back history. Well, anyway, she's a 1940 submarine, because there is also the older submarine called the SMU-73 type UE-1 submarine from 1950s in World War I. So it took me slightly time to actually catch up to realize the differences. But the Azur U-73 is the so here's the history I managed to find. I'm gonna read this right over here. The information says as follows: German submarine U-73 1940 version was a Type 7B U-boat of Germany's Kriegsmarine during World War II. She was laid down by Werft, Germany as Yard Number 1 on 5th November 1939, launched on 27 July 1940, and commissioned on 30th September of the same year. U-73 carried out 15 patrols between early 1941 and late 1943, sinking 8 ships and 4 warships. She also damaged further 3 commercial vessels. She was part of 5 wolf packs. She was sunk by 2 US warships, USS Wolsey and Trippe, if I pronounce that name correctly, off the North African coast on 16 December 1943. And I did some what the records actually says. Well, her armament is 53.3 centimeter or 21-inch torpedo tubes, 4 on the bow and 1 on the stern. Although she had 16 torpedoes, but it seems she could also carry 26 TMA sea mines. 1 8.8 cm deck gun and 1 2 cm C dash or dash what? Excuse me. 30 anti-aircraft gun. Now I did some reading, and one thing really caught my attention was her 3rd, 4th and 5th patrols, which says the following: these sorties were conducted in mid-Atlantic but were uneventful. On 26 May 1941, U-73 was ordered to help the wounded German battleship Bismarck, which was under attack from British destroyers. On the night of 26 May, U-73 spotted star shells that illuminated Bismarck, and also saw the Bismarck firing her guns. But U-73 was unable to attack the destroyers due to force 7 to 9 winds. U-73 reported the Bismarck's position to Group West, but the positions proved inaccurate. U-73 then returned to port in France. And one of the also got my attention because her quotes hinted something like just staring the ports and getting sunk somewhere there. But this was something closest one I could find related to that. The submarine was attacked by Bristol Blenheim of number 203 Squadron RAF, about 50 nautical miles north-northwest of Derna in Libya on 22 March 1942. The damage was such that the boat was unable to dive and had to return to La Spezia on 26 March 1942. The U-boat was under repair at La Spezia for 4 months. And there is also 8 patrol, which also says on 11 August 1942 she sunk the aircraft carrier HMS Eagle during Operation Pedestal. Rosenbaum was awarded the Knight's Cross and sent to command the Black Sea U-boat flotilla. Now that's one of the... and also right now I also seem to notice that she tried to attack HMS Rodney with the 4 torpedoes, which were launched from 5 kilometers, but missed those torpedoes. But her 15 patrol, which also leads to her loss, is that... but I'm gonna say this simply, U-73 found the convoy GUS-24 of Oran on 16 December 1943 and torpedoed American Liberty ship SS John S. Copley, and the damaged vessel returned to port. Destroyers USS Wolsey, USS Trippe and USS Dales Edison left Mers El Kebir to find the U-boat. And during the engagement, I have to also point out, 73 is the rare submarine on the Kriegsmarine that had a radar, and that radar was Fumo 61 Hohenwheel U radar system, which was installed at starboard side of the conning tower. Very interesting. But this radar did not work, it seems. Which then the destroyers, 2 of them, managed to damage 73 to the point she had to crash surface, shall I say. And then somewhere the destroyers promptly detected her on radar and illuminated the submarine with searchlights. She sank by the stern following a brief exchange of gunfire. And only 3 of Wolsey's crew were wounded by machine gun fire, and 16 of the U-boat crew perished. And the Wolfpacks the 73 was serving, well, she took part of, were namely West, Corfurst, Grönland, Race Wolf, and last one was Wall, or Wall, how should you pronounce that? And there also seems to be picture over here, HMS Eagle sinking 11 August 1942. I am not sure, is it the Eagle from the Royal Navy? But anyway, to my personal point of view, she had somewhat promising career, but it ended up sadly. Now then, that was a stupidly long introduction of the U-73, so let's speed up with her stats, shall we? If you owe her and reach level 125, you can give her 1370 HP, her torpedoes 544, and her hunting range, if you go maximum level to 5, it seems to be very decent one, very good shape. It can work somewhere, some maps, but it heavily depends on how do you want to use it. Her luck stat is 35, which means yes, it's very rough spot if the luck stat is that low. And her oxygen time is 188, meaning if you add a dot between 8s, means he can stay underwater close enough to 19 seconds. But he can improve her by giving her Iron Plot Snorkel, which gives her really good 85 oxygen points, meaning that there's an 8.5 seconds more time underwater. As for her skins, she gets the Science Rules, which has very funny background if you actually have played the game when this was released. And New Year's Chemistry. I don't know why 73 is focusing on chemistry. But yeah, I have to say, I'm vibing with this chemistry design. And as for the New Year design, I actually say it's very cool looking. Very nice design. Now as for the efficiency on her torpedoes, her first slot is 125 and her second slot is 120%. As for her secondary gun is 85%, which is sadly quite low. She doesn't have alchemy module yet, but perhaps somewhere in the future she will get one. Now as for her skills. Her only greatest one is a Carrier Hunter. Increases this ship damage to carriers by 15%, historical relation to the Eagle getting hunted, torpedoed. Then we have very classy wallpack tactics. For each Ironblood submarine in your fleet, increases this boat's torpedo, reload and accuracy by 6%. Not bad at all. And then we have All Out Assault, and from the Limit Break. Very classic 6 torpedo barrage, nothing impressive, very standard looking. Even her base design, I'm jumping here and there, apologies. It's very simple. It seems like she has a rocket boots, very high iron plot technological rocket boots over there. You can see flames over there, I believe. And her rigging is like a very advanced motorbike or motorcycle, how you want to describe it. And you can actually see some G7 torpedoes over here. I'm not sure is that how the warhead really looks, but if it really looks, I'm very impressed if it really looks like that. I don't know why. Well, German engineering, somebody explain that to me. But either way, even her character design, the rigging design, this is something what I personally approve. Very well made. Other than that, I think that's all I actually think of. But the build I have right now, I have Type 95 submarine torpedo, which has fire rate 15 seconds, but the damage is 174 and she fires 2 of them. But the torpedo speed is 3, which is very decent. And this is Sakura Empire torpedo, and one of them is also G7E acoustic combi submarine torpedo, which has a slightly less damage but faster fire rate. it is a homing capabilities, but it is slow. Only 2 knots perhaps. And it is made by Iron Blood. You can improve by the damage modifier if you let's just say, enchant them more, but it requires golden plates to make them more, packing more punch, shall we say. I gave her improved snorkel, which give her, as I mentioned, 85 oxygen points, giving her extra 8 seconds and a half. But then I gave her pressure resistant hull design, giving her torpedoes 35 and 100 extra HP points. And the skill says following: increases the submarine speed by 20%, excuse me, and moves it forward another 8 units after it enters battle. I guess perhaps I more forgot something about the Type 7B design. Well, Type 7 is very common on the Kriegsmarine, but this is a B variation. So yeah, perhaps there are some differences by design. German Type B submarines were preceded by the short Type 7A submarines, says the Wikipedia at least. But I leave that to the expertise. As for the secondary gun, I think I'm gonna keep that for now. But with that, I think I'm gonna use her in this very simple fleet. U-73 above the flagship, which happens to be 37, and then there is a 552 next to them. Oh, by the way, according to quotes, if you have in Azur Lane Wiki, additional voice line, if you have either sorted with at least 2 of U-81, 556, 47, or 557. She will have this voice line which reads, "U-boats, it's our time to shine." She also mentioned she also was a flagship of these U-boat fleets. But then, I guess that's all I'm gonna say, and now my final opinions before this tends to go too long. Hello, boys, overlooking over here, and yes, Iron Blood U-boat Type 7B submarine. U-73. She may have very active but also short war career. But other than that, she did succeed the same trick, like what did this, was it 81 who sank Ark Royal, and now 73 does the same, but it is HMS Eagle, which is, I have to admit, very impressive if you know type of torpedoes and their characteristics that Germany actually had during World War II. And what I heard, they tend to work and sometimes work very questionably, but that's just based on what I have heard. If you know more about German submarines and their torpedoes, let me know in comments down below. Anyway, Azur Lane U-73. Technically, she is a very simple submarine. There's nothing wrong about it. She is like made to deal a lot more damage to aircraft carriers, although it is only 15%, unfortunately. And she also appeared first time in Searcher of Iron and Blood event. But in these days, she is accessible. Actually, I didn't check at all how to get 73. Nowadays, if you go with the archive and access, she's available in Circles of Iron and Blood and a requisition, which means you have to spend medals, which is a random chance. And also she's available in Guild Shop, because she is elite ship and you happen to be on a guild, you can actually access her fairly easily. So yeah, she's old, and if... okay, what I can think of, was it map... what was that map? 13? Yes, the one with the Taiho and the Shokaku and Suikaku as the enemy flagships. Well, she is cheap to run, because she's an elite, and super rares are slightly expensive, perhaps? But because she's a submarine, I believe every submarine has the same oil cost, so I am not sure. But either way, if we want to have some type of specialized submarine fleet that can actually sink aircraft carriers, shall we say, and from the Iron Blood, U-73 can actually do the work. Nowadays, however, while this video is made, there can be some way better choices available in the game, but I am not sure right now while I record this video. Are those type submarines easy to access right now that can actually deal a lot more damage to aircraft carrier? Let's just say, was it Gado or Albacore who did some nasty, or shall we say, impressive hit to the aircraft carrier Taiho? And was there also one, was it the, what was it, the submarine who did some fatal hit to the aircraft carrier Shinano as well? Those are just examples of very good anti-aircraft carrier submarines, shall I say. And 73 might fall behind them, yes, sir. But she's easy to access, shall we say. Just a get-go about making this anti-aircraft carrier submarine fleet. Now, because she's a Wolfpack, which means she gets a buff. If you have all 3 Iron Blood submarines, and nothing new over there. But as for the Gado, shall we say, the ones from the Eagle Union, they also have some very impressive buffs compared to the Wolfpack. But it depends on how do you build the submarine fleet, also affects their performance. Like there are some submarines like U-boat formation skills from certain submarines. Was it the example Wolfpack formation U-73? Well, it only buffs herself, unfortunately. And what was it, the one peculiar submarine? Wolfpack formation U-101 increases evasive rate 7% and damage to destroyers and light cruiser by 7% for all your Iron Blood submarines. So 101 is a one choice, but that increases damage to destroyers and light cruisers. But if we have U-96 example, increases accuracy by 10% and critical damage by 15% for all your Iron Plus submarines. So I highly recommend 96 alongside with those that can be specialized hunting aircraft carriers. Like something with the 81 that says Silent Hunter Plus, increases this boat torpedo damage dealt by 10% and increases damage dealt against light carriers and light carriers by 20%. So yeah, that's one. That is the options. You has some options how to create a very interesting wolf pack, shall we say, with our current. Oh, by the way, there'll be a while this video is made, a new Iron Blood submarine approaching, which happens to be ultra rare one. So look forward to that as well. I'm very interested. Looking forward to the new submarine the Iron Blood is gonna get, and that happens to be ultra rare one, Type 21 submarine. So perhaps, who knows? Perhaps that new member of the Wolfpack can also provide some interesting buffs to the Iron Blood submarines. But other than that, I don't think I can actually figure out anything about 73 other than just see. Depends on what type of armament you give her. That's all she can actually think of. And I think the kunai I gave her was a slight mistake, which says the following: modified effect, crippling blow torpedoes. When this ship's torpedoes hit an enemy, 8% chance to decrease that enemy's damage dealt by 5% for 10 seconds. This skill cannot stack with itself. Let's just say the kunai, it depends, is it useful or not, but I personally recommend having a dagger on submarines because critical targeting torpedoes says the following: increases this ship's torpedo crit rate by 10%. And if you are specialized dealing with the, let's just say, aircraft carriers, that's very interesting buff to have. Which is what I highly recommend having kunai. Someone's like 73 example. Did I say kunai? I meant to say dagger. But I think that's all I actually think of about 73 right now. Not making this too long. If you found this video informative, let me know in comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is AlkimiS205. Please take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.